Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. is the president-elect of the United States. He defeated incumbent President Donald Trump in 2020 presidential election. 78-year-old Biden will take oath as the 46th President of the United States on 20 January 2021. During the Obama administration, Biden served as the 47th Vice President from 2009 to 2017. The highest political offices in the nation. Biden, born on November 20, 1942, grew up in the blue-collar city of Scranton in northeast Pennsylvania. His father, Joseph Biden Sr., worked cleaning furnaces and as a used car salesman. His mother was Catherine Eugenia Jean Finnegan. Biden credits his parents with instilling in him toughness, hard work and perseverance. He has recalled his father frequently saying, "Champ, the measure of a man is not how often he is knocked down, but how quickly he gets up." He's also said that when he would come home sullen because he had been bullied by one of the bigger kids in the neighborhood, his mother would tell him, "Bloody their nose so you can walk down the street." The next day Biden attended St. Paul's Elementary School in Scranton. In 1955, when he was 13 years old, the family moved to Mayfield, Delaware, a rapidly growing middle-class community sustained primarily by the nearby DuPont Chemical Company. As a child, Biden struggled with a stutter, and kids called him Dash and Joe Impedimenta to mock him. Biden was a solid student and, despite his small size, a standout receiver on the football team. He was a skinny kid, his coach remembered, but he was one of the best pass receivers I had in 16 years as a coach. Biden graduated from Archmere in 1961. Biden attended the nearby University of Delaware, where he studied history and political science and played football. He would later admit that he spent his first 2 years of college far more interested in football, girls and parties than academics. But he also developed a sharp interest in politics. In his own words, "Fell ass over tin cup in love at first sight." Encouraged by his new love, he applied himself more fully to his studies and was accepted into the Syracuse University Law School. Upon his graduation from Delaware in 1965, Biden and Hunter married the next year, in 1966. Biden was at best a mediocre law student. During his first year at Syracuse, he flunked a class for failing to properly cite a reference to a law review article. Although he claimed it was an accidental oversight, the incident would haunt him later in his career. Early political career. After graduating from law school in 1968, Biden moved to Wilmington, Delaware, to begin practicing at a law firm. He also became an active member of the Democratic Party, and in 1970 he was elected to the New Castle County Council. While serving as councilman, in 1971, Biden started his own law firm. In addition to his increasingly busy professional life, Biden had 3 children. Joseph Bo, born in 1969, Robert Hunter, born in 1970, and Naomi Amy, born in 1971. "Everything was happening faster than I expected," Biden said about his life at the time. In 1970, family tragedy. Just as all of Biden's wildest dreams seemed to be coming true, he was struck by devastating tragedy. A week before Christmas in 1972, Biden's wife and 3 children were involved in a terrible car accident while out shopping for a Christmas tree. The accident killed his wife and daughter and severely injured both of his sons, Bo and Hunter. Biden was inconsolable and even considered suicide. He recalls, "I began to understand how despair led people to just cash in, how suicide wasn't just an option, but a rational option. I felt God had played a horrible trick on me, and I was angry." Nevertheless, at the encouragement of his family, Biden decided to honor his commitment to representing the people of Delaware in the Senate. He skipped the swearing-in ceremony for new senators in Washington and instead took the oath of office from his son's hospital room. In order to spend as much time as possible with his sons, Biden decided to continue to live in Wilmington, commuting to and from Washington each day by Amtrak train, a practice he maintained through his entire long tenure in the Senate. Senate years. From 1973 to 2009, Biden served a distinguished Senate career. During his time in the Senate, Biden won respect as one of the body's leading foreign policy experts, serving as chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations for several years. His many foreign policy positions included advocating for strategic arms limitation with the Soviet Union, promoting peace and stability in the Balkans, expanding NATO to include former Soviet-bloc nations, and opposing the First Gulf War. In later years, he called for American action to end the genocide in Darfur and spoke out against President George W. Bush's handling of the Iraq War, particularly opposing the troop surge of 2007. In addition to foreign policy, Biden was an outspoken proponent of tougher crime laws. In 1987, Supreme Court nominee Robert Bork's failure to receive confirmation was largely attributed to harsh questioning by Biden, who was then chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. In 1994, Biden sponsored the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act to add 100,000 police officers and increase sentences for a host of crimes. Presidential ambitions. In 1987, having established himself as one of Washington's most prominent Democratic lawmakers, Biden decided to run for the U.S. presidency. He dropped out of the Democratic primary, however, after reports surfaced that he had plagiarized part of a speech. Biden had been suffering severe headaches during the campaign, and shortly after he dropped out in 1988, doctors discovered that he had 2 life-threatening brain aneurysms. Complications from the ensuing brain surgery led to blood clots in his lungs, which, in turn, caused him to undergo another surgery. Always resilient, Biden returned to the Senate after surviving a 7-month recovery period. U.S. Vice President. In 2007, 20 years after his first unsuccessful presidential bid, Biden once again decided to run for the U.S. presidency. Despite his years of experience in the Senate, however, Biden's campaign failed to generate much momentum in a field dominated by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Biden dropped out after receiving less than 1% of the vote in the crucial Iowa caucuses. Several months later, though, Obama, having secured the Democratic nomination after a hard-fought campaign against Clinton, selected Biden as his running mate. With his working-class roots, re-election and second term. Running for re-election in 2012, the Obama-Biden team faced Republican challenger Mitt Romney, a former governor of Massachusetts, and Romney's vice presidential running mate, U.S. Representative Paul Ryan of Wisconsin. Obama defeated Romney in the 2012 election, earning a second term as president and Biden another term as vice president. President Obama received nearly 60% of the electoral vote and won the popular vote by more than 1 million ballots. Later that year, Biden showed just how influential a vice president he could be. He was instrumental in achieving a bipartisan agreement on tax increases and spending cuts to avoid the fiscal cliff crisis. With a looming deadline, Biden was able to hammer out a deal with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. On January 1, 2013, the fiscal cliff bill passed in the Senate after months of tough negotiations. The House of Representatives approved it later that day. Around this time, Biden also became a leading figure in the national debate about gun control. He was selected to head up a special task force on the issue after the school shooting at a Newtown, Connecticut elementary school that December. Biden delivered solutions for reducing gun violence across the nation to President Obama in January 2013. He helped craft 19 actions that the president could take on the issue using his power of executive order, among other recommendations. Personal life and post-White House. Biden has been married to his second wife, Jill Biden, since 1977. The couple's daughter, Ashley, was born in 1981. On May 30, 2015, Biden suffered another personal loss when his son Beau died at the age of 46 after battling brain cancer. Beau Biden was, quite simply, the finest man any of us have ever known, Biden wrote in a statement about his son. Following this tragedy, Biden considered a run for the presidency, but he put the speculation to rest in October 2015 when he announced that he would not seek the 2016 Democratic nomination. In the White House Rose Garden with his wife Jill and President Obama by his side, Biden made his announcement, referring to his son's recent death in his decision-making. "As my family and I have worked through the grieving process, I've said all along what I've said time and again to others, that it may very well be that the process by the time we get through it closes the window. I've concluded it as closed." Biden added, "While I will not be a candidate, I will not be silent. I intend to speak out clearly and forcefully, to influence as much as I can, where we stand as a party, and where we need to go as a nation." On January 12, 2017, President Obama presented Biden with the Presidential Medal of Freedom with distinction, the nation's highest civilian honor, in a surprise ceremony at the White House. Obama called Biden the best vice president America's ever had, and a lion of American history, and told him he was being honored for faith in your fellow Americans, for your love of country and a lifetime of service that will endure through the generations. Biden gave an emotional impromptu speech thanking the president, First Lady Michelle Obama, his wife Jill and his children. As promised, Biden refused to remain quiet, even after leaving. In an interview with Al Sharpton the following spring, Biden said he hadn't ruled out running for president in 2020, though he still hadn't recovered enough from his son's death to devote himself to the effort. "I'm really hoping that some other folks step up," he said. "I think we have some really good people. I got to walk away knowing that there's somebody who can do it and can win, because we've got to win. We've got to win in 2020." The results of a Harvard Capps Harris poll in June suggested that Democrats weren't ready to let Biden walk away just yet, as he topped the poll with 32% of participants naming him their favorite for the party's nomination in 2020. Hillary Clinton came in second at 18%, with Bernie Sanders finishing third at 16%. While still contemplating a presidential run the following March, Biden faced a new problem when Lucy Flores, a former Nevada state assemblywoman, published an essay that described Biden inappropriately kissing her at a campaign event. Biden responded with a statement in which he recalled the countless handshakes, hugs, expressions of affection, support and comfort he offered to political allies over the years, adding, "And not once, never, did I believe I acted inappropriately. If it is suggested I did so, I will listen respectfully. But it was never my intention." A few days later, a former congressional aide named Amy Lapos came forward with her story of how Biden once made her uncomfortable at a fundraiser, indicating the issue would likely linger through a presidential campaign. 2020 Presidential Campaign. On April 25, 2019, Biden delivered the expected news that he was running for president in 2020. In his 3.5-minute video announcement, the former VP referenced President Trump's attempt to equate people on both sides of the violent, racially charged clash in Charlottesville, Virginia, in 2017, saying he knew then that the threat to our nation was unlike any I'd ever seen in my lifetime. Although he easily led most Democratic polls at the time he entered the race, Biden's candidacy soon became a litmus test for a party with an increasingly progressive base. Underscoring the challenges of presenting himself as a moderate, Biden drew criticism for affirming his support of the Hyde Amendment, a 43-year-old measure that banned federal funding for abortions, before reversing his position shortly afterward. During the first Democratic primary debate in late June, Biden again found his track record targeted when Kamala Harris took him to task for his opposition to busing as a means of integrating schools in the 1970s. He fared better in subsequent debates, in which he demonstrated his sound grasp of foreign policy and tied his accomplishments to those of President Obama. Meanwhile, a new issue surfaced in September 2019 with the revelation that President Trump had pressured the Ukrainian government into investigating Biden and his son Hunter. This stemmed from Hunter's former involvement with a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma Holdings, and Biden's efforts to have the country's prosecutor general at the time fired. In a September 24 speech, Biden called Trump's actions an abuse of power The much-anticipated first presidential debate between Biden and Trump on September 29, 2020, was a messy affair marked by frequent interruptions and heated discussions that quickly spiraled off topic. A flustered Biden called his opponent a clown, but he also managed to get in several shots at the president's handling of the coronavirus pandemic and emphatically presented his views on law enforcement and climate change. A second debate was scheduled for October 15, but after Trump declined to do a virtual debate, town halls for both candidates were scheduled instead. With microphones often muted during the third debate on October 22, Biden faced fewer interruptions as he articulated his positions on healthcare, immigration overhaul and green jobs. He also again unloaded on the president for his coronavirus management and policy of separating migrant children from their parents at the border, drawing a clear distinction between their styles with the declaration that America's character is on the ballot. With several states counting mail-in ballots well past the close of polling places on November 3, 2020, the race remained too tight to call into the next day. However, the tide began shifting in Biden's favor with the announcements of his victories in Wisconsin and Michigan, along with reports of his leads in Arizona, Nevada and Georgia. Meanwhile, President Trump launched a series of lawsuits that alleged voter fraud and sought to halt the counting in battleground states. On November 7, 2020, 4 days after Election Day, Biden was declared as the 46th president-elect after winning Pennsylvania. Along with earning a record 81 million plus votes, the soon-to-be 78-year-old was set to become the oldest president in the nation's history. America, I'm honored that you have chosen me to